In this tutorial, we're going to be working with images and doing a process called image trace to be able to convert a raster image, like a JPEG, just a regular photograph, into a vector file that we can work with better in Illustrator. So the first thing is to make sure that you open a new document in Illustrator. We're not going to be opening the file directly, but we're going to be creating a template and then placing the image within that. That is an important step. So I have a document open up just like normal here. Under File, then we go and say Place. We're going to be placing an image into the document. Navigate and find your image. This is the one that I'm going to be working with. And you have a choice then of where you want to place it. Just place it usually towards the upper left-hand corner as a starting point. I'll notice that my image is quite large. So what I'm going to do is use the regular selection tool and start dragging the corner down so I get a appropriate sized. Make sure and hold down the Shift key. This will constrain the proportions to the original proportions of the image. If you don't do that, you can make one that's accidentally very thin or very wide, that kind of thing. Okay, and then I'll just center it onto the image here, or onto the document. The next step is to go up to under Image Trace. And you can either just click Image Trace, or if you click the triangle next to it, it will give you a series of presets that you can try. I suggest trying different presets to get the desired result with your image. I'm just going to use the default one for this. You may get a warning if your image size is large. It may take a little bit longer, but it's not too bad in this case. While we're waiting for that, you could always edit your image in advance in Photoshop to make it either a smaller size or also to make a higher contrast between light and dark, which may give you a better result when you do this tracing. Okay, it's done. We see the results here. If you wanted to, you could click on this button and it would bring up all of the options that you have to further refine this. The most typical ones you'll work with are going to be playing with this threshold. So you might want to have it find more or less of the image. Each time it will have to update. I don't care for that. I'll go back to basically where it was. Again, you have to tune this to your particular image. The other options are under Advanced. We can deal with corners, noise, paths, some other things like that. Typically that threshold is going to be the main thing that you're going to be working with though. Okay, so let's say this is the way that I want it. What we next need to do is say Expand, and that converts it into a vector image. So you'll notice that there's a whole bunch of different points in here, and one thing that happens is that it creates a path for both the object and the fill. So it's sort of for the tracing and for the fill, and so you end up getting, when we process it towards working with a laser cutter, what are known as double lines. So you'll have a line exactly on top of another line. In most cases with Illustrator, that's not a big deal because you will never see it. But for the laser cutter, this would mean that it will cut the same path twice. And this is something that we definitely do not want to do because it will waste time and waste energy. So one of the easiest ways to work around this is to first go under Object and Ungroup. Okay, and then click Away. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select a white space. So not one of the parts that I want, but some of the empty white space. And it looks like I'm selecting everything, but I'm not. And then what I'll do is I can hit Delete. And then we'll notice, once I've done that, that if I then select some of these other portions and move them away, I'll just do this one, we'll see that underneath it there is nothing. If I had not done that previously, we would have seen a tracing result there that would be selected. So that got rid of a lot of the lines that we do not need. There may be some examples in the middle, these sort of hollowed out spaces where we will indeed have double lines. So you would need to take the time to go in to each of those and delete those so that those are not double lined. And that can be a tedious process, but it's a part of the work of working with laser cutter. And we will endeavor to find other options to do the same sorts of thing. So in this case, it's any place that is like an island. You have to go in, select it, and delete. Okay, I would continue, but for the sake of time, the next step that you would want to do is select all. I use Command A to select all, and then we would say we need to set the fill to be nothing, just like we always do, and the stroke to be the color black for etching, red for cutting all the way through. I'll use red here. And then set the stroke weight to be 0.001. And there we have an image that's been converted and ready for laser cutting. The one last thing I will mention is that you'll notice on here that as we zoom in, you'll see that there is a slight variation between the thickness or the sort of apparent brightness of the red here versus here. And this is because these are areas that are still double lines, ones that I have not dealt with. So if I delete that, we'll see that it becomes now the correct thickness, and you will not have double cuts there. And that's it.